All right, today I'm going to be discussing the rise of populism in Latin America. We've already discussed nationalism. Populism is a sort of branch of nationalism. So number one, what was it and how did it develop? Populism is a nationalist leadership style that focuses on two things. Mass politics. Here we're talking about political parties, we're talking about mass rallies, we're talking about newspapers and radio, mass media, along with winning elections. So how does it develop, or why? It has to do with the expansion of both voting and the working class. So first, by 1945, large portions of Latin America have given the vote to women. By 1947, Argentina is included. Additionally, most countries have lowered the voting age to 18, and so the electorate is massively expanding. Along with that, they also get rid of the literacy and property requirement that had essentially been a means by which they stopped poor people from voting, for lack of a better way to put it. And so here we have a gigantic increase in the electorate, the creation of mass politics. So let's talk then about how class industrialization plays into it. ISI, import substitution industrialization, which we talked about in nationalism, creates in areas where ISI is happening, places like Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Mexico, an industrial working class. This is new because if you remember back, the working class was principally agricultural prior to the advent of the Great Depression. So populists attempt to take this working class, which is growing, and mainly urban, along with the middle class and join them so as to create a really powerful political coalition. So as to attract the working class, what they do is populist leaders promise basically improvement in working conditions and an inclusion of the working class's voice in government. And to attract the middle class, populist leaders attack the old elite, the liberal, the very upper echelons of society. Populist leaders decry them to appeal to the middle class, but while doing that, they don't talk about class war. They don't say, oh, well, we're for the workers and we're going to take away the means of production and all of that. No, it's sort of a delicate line, but by walking it, they're able to appeal to both the worker and the middle class. So after the Second World War, industrialization in Latin America begins to slow down a bit. Basically, the United States, with this massive economy, is now just flooding foreign markets with their goods again. And the old elite, the old liberal elite, along with the United States, wants Latin America to return to the export-import model. Latin America grows stuff, sells it, and then imports everything else with the money that they get from growing stuff. Populists use the nationalist rhetoric, which developed post-1930, generally, to basically argue that the old elite are allied with the foreigners, that they are interested only in what's good for the old elite and for the foreigners, and not at all interested in what's good for the nation. This is a pretty powerful means by which populist leaders increase their popularity. So let's talk about some examples of populism. All right, so the first one we're going to talk about is Argentina. There's a guy named Juan Perón. He is I'm going to actually move over here. Yeah, I think I like this better. He is a military officer, among other things, and he appeals directly to the middle class. There's a huge earthquake in Argentina. He is in charge of kind of taking care of the cleanup, and he becomes a kind of national hero, along with being a high-ranking military official. He appeals directly to the middle class upon retiring from the military, and in 1946 wins a gigantic electoral victory, becoming president of the country. He ends up being in office the first time, 1946 to 1955. He shows up later, but we won't worry about that. Some of the things that he did that distinguish him as a populist is he unionized workers into government-run unions. This is a double-edged sword, which is to say, the government recognized the rights of workers through these government-run unions, saying that, hey, all of these different unions are now government-run, so everyone's got a place at the table, all the workers do. The problem is that this actually limits the workers' right to strike. It's now illegal for them to strike because they are part of the government. So while it looks like he's sharing power with the workers, actually what's happening is he's really centralizing power in the government. This is something populists do pretty frequently, appear to be helping the workers, and in many ways they do, but that having been said, that it's that kind of distinction, like the middle class, working class distinction. It's not the sort of communist or Marxist approach of putting the working class in charge. In fact, actually, it's really centralizing the government. He also nationalized railroads, banks, and utilities. The railroads especially were run by the British. He totally took that away from them. And he expanded the welfare state, medical insurance, medical leave, the equivalent of Social Security. All of that appealed to both the working class and the middle class. The government would, through taxes, take care of its citizens. And he also expanded the bureaucracy. He created a large number of government agencies, a lot like Vargas when we talked about him in nationalism. He, Perón, attempted a major industrialization plan and basically funded it through using all of the sale of Argentinian beef and grain to try and get Argentina to take the next step in industrialization. Argentina was already fairly industrialized for a Latin American country. Unfortunately, this ends up failing. And it causes a pretty major downturn in the Argentine economy, a lot of debt, and suddenly the Argentine money becomes worth less and less. And so what happens in 1955 is he's exiled by the military. They kick him out of the country. He'll return later on, but don't sweat that. And that's populism in Argentina. P.S. there is still a Peronist party in Argentina. He is still an incredibly important part of Argentinian politics, even though he died like 50 years ago. In Brazil, Getúlio Vargas, whom we talked about in the nationalism unit, is also definitely a populist. To remind you, he's the head of state. He's actually head of state twice, 1930 to 1945 and 1950 to 1954. He creates a dictatorship during that 1930 to 1945 period, which he calls the Estado Novo, the new state, during which time he seriously pushes industrialization. ISI is a big part of Vargas's regime. He also recognizes the political role that workers will play by, just like Perón, putting them in official government-run unions. But like I said, obviously, that this to some extent increases while at the same time limiting workers' rights. It's all about the centralized state giving the appearance of rights to the workers. He also nationalized a whole host of industries. What do we got? Utilities, some banks. He, as mentioned in the nationalist unit, he created a national motor company. He created a national steel company. As also mentioned in the nationalism unit, he forced the assimilation of immigrants. It happens in the United States even today. Unfortunately, you can appeal to the working class oftentimes by by bad-mouthing other members of society. And so Vargas really attacked immigrants by making them, as I mentioned in the nationalism unit, making it illegal not to speak Portuguese, making it impossible to print any newspapers in something other than Portuguese, closing German language, Japanese language schools, etc. And so I'm going to stop this here and pick up in the next lecture, and we'll talk about the big ideas of populism.